In this video, we are going to be covering a lot of what the tech reviewers have put out in their embargo released video because the M2 MacBook Air is available today for purchase. I just ordered one of the configurations, so I'm going to pick it up and do some reviews, but I wanted to do a TLDW of the videos that were released yesterday, and that includes specifically the problems that people have found. So this includes the 256 base configuration, the single NAND concerns, which basically people are finding slow read and write speeds, the M2 throttling concerns, what people saw from the M2 MacBook Pro and some of the tests of the M2 Air that came out, and the price point to the M1 Pro. So without further ado, let's take a look at these issues and what my thoughts are on them. So of course, the first one on the list was the slower speeds, and as you can see here from this tech reviewer, Created Tech, he's showcasing that the M2 MacBook Pro only has one slot for the NAND configuration. So most people were showing slower speeds in the read and write compared to the previous model. Dave 2D even confirmed this in the M2 MacBook Air version. So really what you could expect as a real life example. So I record some footage on 4K with my iPhone, not just for these videos, but for example, I was traveling in Alaska last month. I was trying to make some Instagram videos, transfer it to my computer, and I also host, these files on my computer for a while. So if I was transferring these between computers, the iPhone 13 is slow already, but once it's already on a hard drive, it's going to be even slower to get these videos to another, let's say an external disk or back to the MacBook. So if I had the MacBook Air before, and then I got the 16-inch version, if I was going to this, which I did buy it for review and I might give it to my fiance, but it would be slower with a 256 gigabyte conversion version. So that's a real life example that may impact casual, quote unquote, daily users. The next point of contention was things that were seen from the M2 MacBook Pro that was released a month ago, is the idea that, if you need to do long periods of rendering or stuff of that nature, that the M2 Air will not be able to sustain the power. And Dave 2D recently released his video, and he found that through these stress tests and even through gaming, you're gonna not get the same performance that you would even just sticking with the M2 MacBook Pro. So this is something to consider. With throttling, is that with the new power that they're trying to push out, they bumped up the speeds, but also, it also increases the thermal. So you are going to lose out on some, at least performance in video rendering choosing between M2 MacBook Air and an M2 MacBook Pro. But then also, with that consideration, depending on what your needs are, this really plays a factor. I think what I've heard from most people is they just want a light computer that can do things really fast. So for most people, this won't impact you, but it is something to consider if you're, on a tight budget or something of that nature, which for the most part, I don't think most people are, but this is just another thing that you should consider, and as a TLDW from, most of the tech videos that are coming out. Lastly, from the value per dollar you're spending to get the configuration that works out best for most people, who want to avoid these. So if you are tech conscious and want to avoid some of these quote unquote concerns that these tech reviews are putting out there, you would have to bump up to at least the 512 gigabyte version. And then, when the M1 came out, there was the memory swap controversy, quote unquote, which they said, hey, you also get better performance technically by allowing memory to go to RAM. So when you do that and you compare it to the 14-inch version, which comes standard at these spec prices, you then get into this issue where you get these prices at $199 versus $1,500, and then you have to consider, well, what are the other benefits you get from the M1 Pro? So this is a lot to think about, especially if most people use devices for long term. It basically comes down to how light do you want your machine to be, like on your back, on your lap, walking day to day. And you have to think about your use case, like, do you browse on the web a lot or watch Netflix before you go to bed with this MacBook Air on your chest? I mean, personally, what I think is like, yes, I do those things, but I just use my iPad or sometimes use my phone, or I even use like my gaming laptop and just put it on silent mode, don't have the fans on. I have had the M1 16-inch, which I also could have done those things as well and moved around. But a lot of times in my workflow, I'm kind of sitting on a desk doing activities or doing the things I need to do. So I think for casual users, maybe people who do office work, you'll be fine with an M2 MacBook Pro. You might not even have the 256 gigabyte problem and might as well bump up to 512. And for most people, you probably won't even need 16 gigabytes, but most tech people will tell you, oh, go to 16 gigabytes just to future-proof it. Depending on where your money's at, I've seen people stretch the MacBooks for a long time. So you don't really need to do that. I would just say get more memory and you should be good to go. So to wrap this up, in conclusion, the 3 issues that were presented by tech reviewers and noticed on forums: the single NAND, everyone should just get 512 gigabytes. It's just something you have to do. It can future-proof you, help you long-term so you don't fill up the space. For the M2 throttle, casual people doing Office, WebEx, Zoom, browsing the web, it doesn't matter. Tech person, at this point, if you're really concerned about this, you might as well get the M1 Pro. I don't still see a reason why you want the M2 MacBook Pro. And lastly, when you're in this consideration for this third factor, I don't think casual people are really considering MacBook Air versus MacBook Pro, but really it comes down to how much money and value do you put to pay for a machine that's lighter, that maybe fits in your bag, maybe is easy to carry around. And then really the only question that casual people, and these are people, again, office, browsing the web, do you have more than 2 external monitors that you need to connect to? Because then you might as well just go to the M1 Pro, or if you really don't need this machine, you can wait for the M2 Pro, which will probably come out next year. So hope that you found some value from this video. I just purchased the MacBook 2 Air that will be doing some, of course I do gaming reviews mostly, and some OBS reviews, so that's stuff you can check out later in this channel. I got to attend a wedding this weekend, so it'll probably be delayed. Probably have some of that content out by Sunday or Monday, but otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.